So I believe it had been officially announced sometime in May or sometime in the spring, late spring, early summertime. I don't know, something like that. So maybe most people who already know about it or are going to know about it already know about it. But just to repeat, so I guess some of the news about that. The official name is going to be Pop Culture Jeopardy. And I don't know, something about that seems a bit weird to me. That seems like that's not a very inspired name. I guess I don't know what else I would have called it. But just for the record, maybe a better name could have been chosen. But in case the name doesn't already kind of speak to what it is, it's going to be a version of Jeopardy focusing on pop culture related questions. And I'm going to get into why that's kind of not the best idea, at least in my opinion, later on. But from the other news that's already known, it's going to be hosted by, and I'm going to say his name completely wrong, probably, but we'll find out, I guess. Colin Jost. I'm not sure. It's one of those two, I think, or at least that's one of those two ways how you pronounce his name. I think I know who it is, but and he's one of the guys from Saturday Night Live who I believe hosts Weekend Update right now, along with I don't know some other goober or whatever. I'm being unnecessarily mean to him. I'm sorry, I have nothing against the guy, but I don't really know why they chose him to host it. I mean, is he particularly relevant right now? I mean, not that it's a big deal or anything. I mean, I guess there's really no problem with him hosting it, but I don't really know why they chose him. But maybe he could do a good job. I thought maybe you might as well just bring in like Ken Jennings or something since he's hosting Jeopardy right now and seems to know what he's doing. Or the other host of Jeopardy from who left last year, if you remember. And again, I'm going to say this name wrong. In my defense, I feel like it's probably harder to pronounce for most people than Colin Jost. Colin Jost, I just couldn't pronounce right because I'm an idiot. But Mayim Balak, I believe, is how you say her name. Maybe she could have hosted. That might have been a good idea, but they didn't. I guess they disagreed with me on that. I was thinking also, who might have been interesting to bring back as a host? Mike Richards. We haven't heard from that guy in a while. Was he available? I don't know. Can someone check the woods, I guess, and see if he's possibly available? He could be. But honestly, I think the main reason it's kind of a bad idea is because it kind of puts a limit on what Jeopardy can and can't do. Because when you think about it, about maybe what half, or maybe I'm being a bit liberal with that guess, a quarter of Jeopardy's questions are pop culture related questions. So basically, what this is a version of Jeopardy where half the questions can be asked, a quarter of the questions be asked. Although they are probably the most interesting questions when you really think about it, because whenever I'm watching Jeopardy, which isn't a lot, but when I do, those are the main questions I'm going to get. I'm not going to get some science question, right? I mean, I'm not a mathematician or anything like that. I'm not going to get some question about science or the Arctic or those three categories, right? Geography, right? So, it's those are probably the most interesting questions, at least in my opinion. They're probably the questions most normal people have the best chance of getting. But a whole show on that, I don't really know. I feel like that kind of just limits what it's kind of just Jeopardy with some limits to it. And also at the same time, does that mean they're going to have to ask less pop culture related questions on, actual Jeopardy? I mean, maybe they're not going to think of it that way, but I think if you want to make the show stand out, wouldn't that be a good idea or something worth thinking about? But I'm not running the network, so like, what the hell do I know about this? But also, according to TV Insider, the show's official description states contestants will quote need to be experts in categories from alternative rock to the Avengers, Broadway to MMA, Gen Z to Zendaya, and so on and so forth. So that already sounds kind of cringe. I mean, no offense to any of those people or groups or whatever mentioned there. I got nothing against them, but it made me think. So the pop culture Jeopardy. This is more like recent pop culture Jeopardy, as in like the past 5 years. There was pop culture beyond the past 5 or so years, guys. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. Maybe all that stuff was not so far out or whatever that it's weird to do a whole show on it, but or so recent that it's weird to do the whole show based on it. But it's still I didn't really see anything that from pop culture from more than 5-10 years ago. So I'm assuming that most of the contestants are going to be people 30 or under, which I mean that's Jeopardy's target audience, right? I mean that's who's watching it, I think. So maybe that's a good idea. But according to Variety, it's going to be on Prime Video, so it's not even going to be on TV, which in some ways is probably kind of better because I mean, when would they air it? Like right after normal Jeopardy? I mean, would they cancel Wheel of Fortune to put in to have just an hour long block of Jeopardy and then Pop Culture Jeopardy right afterwards. So maybe that's the best idea. But at the same time, I mean, if you're gonna make a Jeopardy spin-off show, I don't really want to pay to watch it. I mean, if anything, they should have done it the other way around. Put Pop Culture Jeopardy on TV and then say, if you want the real Jeopardy, you're gonna have to pay for it now. You know, make people value Jeopardy. Make it so you're gonna have to pay for that crap. But it seems like we're kind of going to a place where we're probably gonna abolish TV in general within 5 or so years. You know, I thought about. I think there's only one or two with all these streaming services and all that coming out, and it seems the vast majority. I mean, I know it's not actually the vast majority, but it feels like the vast majority of programming you have to pay for some exclusive service or whatever to watch it. So with that in mind, I feel like within 5 years or so, cable TV is either going to be gone, which might seem kind of crazy, but I genuinely think within the 5 or so years, either it'll be gone or just all that's on cable anymore is just reruns of movies and stuff, or in the next 5 or so years, all these streaming services are going to go away, and we'll just go back to cable the way things were, the way things should go back to being, in my opinion, because that was just easier. But one of those two. I don't think things will continue the way they are. Where it seems TV and streaming services are kind of sharing the glory, or whatever you want to call it, right now. Probably not much longer with that. But back to Pop Culture Jeopardy, away from my little spiel there. It seems another thing that's kind of interesting is the set has been revealed in a photo that I believe was put on their website or something like that. Um, and it kind of just looks like a more extravagant version of the Jeopardy set. So I don't know what else it would look like, honestly. Uh, but it looks decent enough. It looks kind of like psychedelic, I guess, which is an interesting take on it. I don't know if that's what they think people, again, like under 30 are into or would like the set to look like, but kind of interesting. Also, I wasn't able to confirm this, but from what I could tell, I think it's like a team based game where there's going to be two to a podium at Jeopardy. And the main reason I say that is because the podiums are noticeably wider for some reason. So I'm assuming they're doing that so there's enough room for two people. Maybe that could make it more interesting. I don't know. So if that's the case, I take back some of what I said about it being kind of an unoriginal, not very interesting idea. But most of my points still stand that I wouldn't greenlight the show. But I'm not a TV executive, so what do I know? But speaking of my relation to the show, I thought I would mention that there was basically no chance. I knew there was, but I wanted to see if I could take the online test to get on because you know I would have liked to have given it a shot to win. What's it? How much do people win on Jeopardy? Like $10,000, whatever. Usually, I would have liked to have won that. But it seems the tests have closed, which I guess is what happens when you get to the news 5 months late or however late I am to this. So, you know, but I didn't want to be on anyway. I would have just told them off and just stood them up if they said I could be on. Believe me on that one. So in the end, it's not like the worst idea for a show or anything. I mean, when you look at things that are actually coming out right now, with that are spin-offs of spin-offs, all the shows are like that. Maybe this isn't the worst thing that could happen, but I don't know if Jeopardy with one category of questions is the future of streaming services, then I don't really know if I'm going to be paying for it. But they're probably going to make a killing from this. So hey, what do I know? But when normal Jeopardy gets canceled, then I guess I'm just done with the franchise. That was the only way I watched it anyway. But that's all